What is going on, guys? It's Nick from Surfcasting the Island, and today's talk of today is going to be etiquette on the beach. Something that is rather overlooked, in my opinion, especially this day and age, and something I believe that individuals, surfcasters, have to work on themselves. I'm going to be quoting Doc Muller, so I'm not taking credit for this portion of what I'm about to say, but in his documentary, he said three specific areas have to be achieved in order for etiquette to drastically increase on the beach. And that is, in this particular order, respect for the fish, respect for the sport, last but not least, respect for themselves as well as other fishermen on the beach and other companions they fish alongside with. So he pretty much concluded that, if this three-step process of ideology and thinking was achieved, that the morality, the relations within the surf casting community would only get better over time. So ever since I watched his documentary in particular, and spending more and more time out on the beach and creating my web of friends, community of friends, so on and so forth, I started to take this into consideration and say, wow, he is right. We all have to be better. We have to be better with ourselves, the species, as well as other people that we're interacting with. So on that note, I'm going to go into a handful of things, whether you want to call it the 10 Commandments of surf casting, or the things that are generally accepted versus the things that are not generally accepted. And yeah, that's pretty much etiquette. Okay, so the first piece of etiquette I'm going to talk about is, everyone knows it because they've heard it at one point or another, whether you're intermediate, beginner, expert, whatever you want to call yourself, is spot burning. All right, now people are going to come at me and say, well, so many spots are known, like Jones, Debs, spots in Staten Island, Little Neck, so on and so forth. Yes, a lot of people know these spots and they're very accessible, but there's a difference about knowing about these spots and knowing about when the bite is going on. You see where I'm going with this? Because if you tell someone that there's fish there 4, 5, 6, 7 days later, unless you're on a sand eel bite where those fish are going to stick around for a couple of weeks, those fish have fins and tails. They're going to move around. They're not going to stay in one spot. So I feel that I have a spot, right? I know there's fish there on a certain wind, tide. I've been fishing for a couple of nights. There's been fish there. Okay. I tell one of my friends. So if I tell one of my friends in my community of, my group, he's supposed to keep that between me and him, unless I give him permission to tell somebody else. You see where I'm going with this? Because it wouldn't be cool if I tell him about a spot, said person, and he goes and tells some other said person and brings him to that spot without me knowing. It's just common etiquette, because a bite explodes, but like smallpox, especially in the day and age we live in. A bite spreads like wildfire. Between apps like Fishbrain, I'm not really a big fan of. That's a big spot burning app. Just social media as a whole, Facebook, people are posting all the time, Instagram, Snapchat, you name it, location services, people are posting about it all the time. So every single fish that was caught during that day, I'm sure someone has logged it somewhere. So I try to avoid, giving out information like that. And people ask me, especially someone that's not in my group, I don't know really well. They ask me, where did you catch a fish? Well, if you caught fish at Jones one day, tell them Debs, or don't tell them anywhere near where you're catching fish. The way, I don't go poking into other people. I don't expect people to go poking into me. So, I do mine and you do yours. That's how we roll with my group of people. We get on a bite, we keep it to ourselves, especially this day and age where I've talked about in previous lectures how the striped bass population is, it's not as good as it was. We're hoping that, the slot limit, maybe put a moratorium on these fish will do something more. But yeah, that's my view. If I'm on the other receiving end of the stick and one of my buddies shows me a spot, I'm gonna ask him if I could bring one of my other friends before, going behind his back, if you will, and bringing someone there that shouldn't be there. So I feel like spot burning is not so much about, you know, yes, there are secret spots, but many of these spots are known to the public. It's just about knowing when the bite's going on and how you're going to tackle it. You don't want to start bringing people when you know a bite's going on behind your buddy's back, and next thing you know, you have a parade of guys there the next day. It's just not cool to do. I wouldn't do that to anyone else, and I hope that none of my friends would want to do that to me. Okay, so the next piece of etiquette I'm going to talk about kind of goes hand in hand a little bit to an extent with spot burning. I'm going to refer to it as spacing on the beach. So, yes, of course, especially on the weekends, if you're fishing the jetty, you're going to be fishing shoulder to shoulder with people. It's inevitable. It's a very popular spot. Everyone has their rock, so on and so forth. But there's a difference of being shoulder to shoulder on a crowded day, whether that be the jetty or if you're fishing out in Montauk, like North Bar, Falls Bar, so far and so forth, compared to, there's only a handful of guys on the beach and someone's right up your grill. Which brings me into a story, funny. I'm not going to say who it was. I'm going to keep his name confidential as well as the situation confidential. But this was this past fall. I went down, was fishing, the southwest beaches towards Rockaway. And right away, me and my buddy were into fish. We're throwing bucktails. This was late October, I'd say early November. Like, we had a very delayed season. The bite just started really good by us. But neither here nor there. We're into fish right away. We're probably fishing, I'd say, I don't know, 10, 15, 20, 30 feet away from each other max. And we're just, like I said, we're right into fish. And this guy comes right in between us, right up our shoulders, casting away. And I'm like, are you effing kidding me? And he was thinking the same thing. And sure enough, it came to a verbal confrontation. And he said, listen, I don't know what your problem is, but, you got to have more respect, especially for people that are finding pods of fish where you have, you don't have the right. Like, who are you to walk in between two people on a beach that's totally empty? Just because, me and him, or me catching fish over here doesn't mean, like, there's definitely fish around. You don't have to cast on top of me. You know what I'm saying? It's just a matter of respect. It causes tangles, lines break, things get nasty. So I try to avoid crowds when I can. I try to avoid people when I can, especially, of course, if I'm fishing with my friends. I want to fish with my friends. But as a whole, I'm not a big fan of fishing crowds. That's why I like to fish more at night, during the week. When people don't want to be out there, they make excuses. They got wives, they got jobs. And, that's when the hard bite happens. And a lot of people just don't, either see that or they don't want to accept that and be stubborn. But like I said, if you have an open beach, you don't want to be up on someone's grill casting over their line. It's not cool. There's a million other places other than where they're fishing. I'm sure there's fish. That's not the only fish in the world, the one that I caught, or my buddy caught. Okay, so the next piece of etiquette I will be discussing is walking your fish. No, not walking your dog, but walking your fish. So this is going to be applying to fishing in lineups, pretty much shoulder to shoulder when it's really crowded out there, whether it be a hot bite or, during the weekend when everyone's out. And, you're into a bite with a bunch of people with big fish. I consider anything big this day and age, anything over, 20 pounds and up. So I had one day, I think 2 falls ago, we were all into fish 20 and over. And we were fishing in a pretty tight formation, 7-8 guys, and right at the inlet. And as the tide dropped, we were able to walk in front of the rocks and fish on the beach. The fish were in a very confined area. So you have 8-9 guys all throwing bucktails and whatnot, and we weren't tangling. Why weren't we tangling? Because we were walking our fish. What I mean by that is when you hook up with a fish and he starts running down tide, you can't just start casting over someone's line, because what's going to happen is you're just going to get tangled, and that fish is just going to tangle anyone to the down tide of him, and it's going to be a mess. So if you have a lineup of guys that know what they're doing, and say you got a guy, big fish coming on, coming down, You reel up if that thing's coming down tide, and you wait until he lands it or he's out of the line of sight of your cast. Because once you start casting and someone has a fish on, or 2 people, 3 people have a fish on, it's just a disaster. Not something you want to do, not cool. Let someone walk their fish, and more important, once they walk their fish, they get back to their spot. You don't have that them days. You have people casting over you, like I said. You have people not walking their fish, taking other people's spots, so on and so forth. Like I said, we gotta all be better on ourselves. And the last but not least, the last piece of etiquette I'll touch on, which is probably one of the more important ones in my opinion, is overkeeping fish, overkeeping the one per person limit. And again, another story I'll touch upon. I was fishing the back bays. It was early season. It wasn't even opening day yet. I think it was like April 8th or April 9th. And me and my buddy saw a guy keeping stripers, and they're undersized and out of season. So we obviously said something to him, gave him a problem. My buddy has a link at the DEC. We pretty much said, "What's your problem, yo? Like, shouldn't be keeping undersized fish, so on and so forth." And his excuse was, "Oh, I'm hungry. I don't have a lot of food at home." To go buy yourself some goddamn food stamps. Why do you, like, striped bass isn't the only food in the world to eat. You got eggs, you got milk, you got bread, you got orange juice. Like, I'm just tired of people making excuses, and then they're the first ones to complain why the stocks are plummeting. Like, come on, we all got to be real with ourselves. We got to start walking our fish, like I said. We got to stop overkeeping this resource. We got to, space out when necessary. We don't have to be on top of each other. And, don't spot burn. Don't give your spots up to just some, Tom, Dick, and Harry on the beach. And I feel like if, etiquette improves, this whole community will, improve. Maybe we'll even get as far as to push for another moratorium, which I'm hoping for. There's no need to keep these fish, especially big fish. They don't taste good. And they're the strong population. They're the strong middle class. And like Bill Lagakis said, if you relate all of life to nature, it's the middle class that supports society, in the world of a lot of, small fish and a handful of big fish, that 20, 30, 40 pound class of fish is just dissipating. It doesn't exist. But neither here nor there. That was my rant, if you want to call it a rant or a discussion. So if you like this video, please like, comment, hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to follow my public IG at surfcasting_the_island. Thank you. Have a nice day. Tune in next time.